Let's get this started. All right. We are live. Welcome everybody to our Wednesday Leadership Live. Very excited today to have a first time ever mutual interview where I'm going to be asking my good friend Donnie Tuttle some questions. Donnie's going to be asking me some questions. We're going to be talking about the art and science of performance. Donnie's got a beautiful background in education and coaching and business, and he's just got a great mind. He is my go-to co-host if I can never do a leadership live since I might be out of town or something, and they always come in with rave reviews. So Donnie, good to have you here, brother.
I'm so happy to be here. And I'm here with Todd Duncan, the Todd father, the
The
most
Todd Father.
recognizable face in the voice of high trust sales that's ever existed. I mean, you've coined so many phrases and mentored so many people to greatness. You've been doing this for longer than most people have even ever thought of coaching and performance. And so pumped to be with you, Todd.
Well, let's just say for a moment, as we're live streaming on YouTube too, if you're on YouTube, welcome to the show. Beginning the middle of the month, so that would put us at the 15th of October. We are taking all fuel shows to 28 minutes. We'll be live streaming on every platform every single week. And the reason we're going to 28 minutes is because we're a micro learning company and we really want to laser in on fewer things that we talk about in this hour and then allow for about 10 minutes after the 18-minute mark or so to have some interaction and some dialogue. And so you'll get some notices on that if you see that we're changing the format. We are. We're getting the most traction at Fuel with 1 minute lessons. If you can imagine, the 1 minute lessons are getting more attention than any other lesson on Fuel. And the beauty of micro learning and the beauty, Donnie, as you know, of micro learning being a science and an art, it's not just chopping up something that somebody else recorded. It's actually from the ground up building something that can be a lesson in a very short period of time. And we're having fun doing it. So check out all things Fuel. Pay attention to the marketing that's coming out, and Donnie and I are going to dive into this today, the art and science of performance. So I think I'll just get your opening remarks, Donnie, when you think about the title of what we're going to be doing today. Welcome everybody that's on. Murphy, good to see you. Baron, good to see you. Ashley, good to see you. Arthur, good to see you. I can't see who's on YouTube. Doesn't matter. But what's your opening kind of? Where's your heart and mind and soul
It,
on the art and science of performance?
oh, well, I got to tell you that I actually there's one word here that I really used to have a problem with, Todd, and it wasn't art or science. It was performance. Like that word for some reason for a long time made me feel like I guess like I just thought of it as more of a stage thing, like you're
Yeah.
pretending, or even in a performance, it's just like you're dialing in to be something that really you're not. But then I looked at like it hasn't been that long ago, but I looked into I track towards genuine and authentic.
Yes.
But do you know, like, performance doesn't mean any of the things I just now mentioned.
Right.
It actually comes to, I'm a word nerd. I need to buy the rights to the word nerd um,
You
trademark.
should. You should.
But
The
it,
word nerd is a good rhythm. That could be your future brand if something doesn't work out. But go ahead.
it comes from a French verb, parfumer, and which literally means to complete thoroughly, or to furnish, or to complete. And it's like to bring something to completion. That's all we're doing when we're talking about performance, and it's like putting something into form. And so, anyway, my opening comments is like I used to hate it, now I love it, because really we're all made to bring things to completion. And
Yeah.
a lot of us, especially in the entrepreneurial world, will start and
Right.
we're so afraid of completion. So that's
Right.
my
Yeah, I think my opening thoughts on this is when I think about performance, I think about the fact that every company in the world exists, whether you're a for-profit or a not-for-profit, at some level to make an impact through the products and services that they provide, right? So then I think about performance as just a simple idea is if we can improve how we do what we do to bring it to completion. If we could do it faster, if we could do it better, if we could do it with higher velocity, if we could shorten turn times, if we could increase conversion, all those things are performance issues, right? And there's a lot of moving parts. As a private pilot, when you're flying a plane, the number one thing they teach you about performance in the cockpit is fly the plane. It's like Vince Lombardi telling the football team, "This is a football, guys, and we're going to keep it basic and we're going to keep it simple." But when you're flying the plane, you have to fly the plane. And then, if anything, from a performance standpoint, maybe it's an engine, maybe it's a battery, maybe it's an electrical issue. Rarely do any of those things happen, but when they do, they can tend to take your eye off the performance piece, which is fly the plane. Because
Mm,
most of the time, anything that happens when you're in flight can be fixed while you're in flight, but nothing works if you're not flying the plane. So, in a company, we fly the plane, right? And there's going to be all these different things that can go right and maybe alert you, or maybe more seriously alarm you, or maybe reveal to you and whatnot. And so then I think the art and the science. The art to me, for a leader, the art is connecting with the soul of the people on your team.
hmm
And I think that the artistic form of leadership takes on a multifaceted prism of connection, and that everybody has a different reason why they're in the position they're in. Everybody has a different reason why they love the company. Everybody has a maybe a unique and different reason for why they're here. I mean, there's so many multifaceted pieces of the art. But the performance is, once I know your art form, once I know what drives you, once I know what brings you alive, whatever I want to tie your science to, which is the action. What is it? Whatever it is, compliance action, human resource action, sales order action, completion action, whatever.
Flying the plane. Yeah.
Hey, flying the plane. Then I can connect the actions we need to take with the art form of why it would be important to you to take those. And all of a sudden, that's leadership. And I say it almost every week now that people follow you for one of two reasons. One, because they have to, and that's not a good reason. And the other is because they want to. And the only reason anybody's going to want to follow anybody is because they're better off following that person.
Mm.
I'm surprised that I've been speaking for 34 years. I'm surprised that I have millions of customers, but people follow because I think what I teach works, and not because I'm some magical personality, right? It's like, hey, if you do this, you'll be more successful. If you don't do that, you'll have more free time. If you do this, and those all science, right? It's all the
How,
stuff. So
how
anyway,
did,
that's my opening line. I don't know if I clarified
oh, I
everything.
love it. No, I love it. I've always been curious, Todd, and this is like this is me getting to have a conversation with you, and then other people just get to listen. I've like how did you cross the chasm from being let's just say I don't want to say a performer in your own rank and right for what you were doing into being someone that actually equipped others or started put others on their path to performance? How did you what brought you into that journey?
Yeah. I get asked questions all the time about how did this whole thing start. And the irony is that when I graduated from college, my mom and dad took us to a barbecue with their friends, but their friends were really good friends. And the husband in that friendship happened to be my Little League coach. But now I was 23 and I just graduated from college. So we're having a conversation about gifts in the backyard on a Fourth of July party, and he said, whether I remember you as an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, or even last summer when we got together, you're always about other people. You're always about making sure that you're taking the spotlight off of you and putting it on others. Leadership is never a positional title. Leadership is always a unselfish relationship. And I say unselfish, not that it's loosey goosey. I say unselfish that the smartest leaders in the world realize that if I help my team win, I win. And that became my motto early on. So that was the first thing. If I could help my real estate agents do more business, I
Hmm
would not have to worry about getting business. If I could help a borrower finance real estate and take the anxiety and the stress and the fear out of that, and then be in their orbit for their whole home ownership life, that would be a really good thing. If I could if I could recognize that most salespeople do a lot of talking and the best salespeople do a lot of asking,
Mm,
that would be a really great way to just pull people into a relationship, pull people into conversation. And Donnie, I have to tell you that my father's move to becoming a doctor after graduating with a degree in accounting from Stanford kind of gave me permission at the age of 32 when people started saying, "Hey, you're pretty good at speaking. Have you ever thought about doing this for a living?" Or, the stuff you talk about really works. Have you ever thought about doing? I hadn't thought about that. I mean, for all intent and purposes, I was going to do mortgages for the rest of my life and help people finance real estate, right? But my dad's calling and him telling me in the driveway that you might have a second calling, was like in my mind when people started saying that. And so I made the decision at age 33 that I would take the time that I'd spent over the last 10 years and I'd start to migrate into having a company that would teach people how to sell professionally, how to build relationships that are loyal, how to make more money with less effort and less stress, how to
mm,
enjoy the process of being in business, and how to reclaim their time so they could have fun being successful.
wow.
And 2 years later, I started the Duncan Group. And in 1994, we were off to the races. And 14 years after I graduated from college, I transitioned that mortgage practice to my team. And I didn't have any clients, Donnie. I had no
Of
clients. Nobody knew who I was,
course.
except for the company I worked for. And so I remember that I had to be purposefully prospecting every day. And so I decided to start in this directory that was the equivalent of the Yellow Pages for mortgage lenders. And a lot of people don't know this story, but I prospected 10 people a day every single day of the week for 9 months before I got my first yes. And my
Wow.
mentor said, you can never stop prospecting. You have to keep doing what you do and bringing the spotlight to the client and how you can help the client win. And if you help the client win, just like I'm saying right now, if you help your team member win, you win. And in the 10th month, Donnie, listen to this. This is all about the tipping point that I had way before Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book. And that was my mentor said, never ever stop prospecting. And after you get your first contract, don't take your foot off the gas. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And in the next 2 months, we got 41 speaking contracts. And so it was, but everything I sent out was not about me. It was about what we could do for you and your team, and it worked. So I don't know how I got.
Wow.
I got here by adding more value than I take. I got here by putting my ego in the barn and realizing that it wasn't about me; it was about the client. And I got here by studying greatness and how to impact it at the emotional level with people, no matter the size of the audience or how many books I've written. It was all about speaking truth. It's always been about truth.
Oh my gosh. So it's interesting. I'm like the common things I'm hearing. First off, someone called out a gift in you, which is I when we talk about what we're really getting at, which is really the easiest way to get our teams to perform. I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
It's finding the gift in others. But it's interesting to me, Todd, that you had a belief that stayed. I mean, 9 months without results is really, really tough. I mean, you can have a baby in 9 months, like 9 months, 9 months with no results, and yet you maintain trajectory, and then something happens. So it's like I think having um, how did you maintain that belief? It sounds like you studied and you were around people, but I'm curious about the belief. How much of it did you feel like you were just like making up of like, I don't know. Seems good. We're just going with what we have. Like, how much of it was like that in the beginning?
I think, and this is important from a leadership standpoint. I think it was having a clear reason why I was doing this. And I was doing this because I had had people over the previous 11 years say, thanks for changing my life, or you're a good speaker, you should consider speaking, blah, blah, blah. And then I would increase the audience sizes here and there. So I had a confidence that maybe this gift could materialize into a business. So I had that confidence.
Hmm.
I also had enough money where I could make a decision with my wife that we would put $100,000 into starting this company. We would take money out every month to pay the bills of the new company, and we wouldn't have the financial stress. And so that was part and parcel what I did. The other thing is I invented double tracking, and double tracking was I still had a regular job during the day and starting around 10 p.m. every night and probably usually going to 2 or 2:30 in the morning, I would work on the new company and I would write things that I thought were valuable and I'd even start to write curriculum. And I have an ACO folder in one of my safes in Laguna Beach where I live that has everything I wrote in the first year before I then started calling companies to see if they would, do business with me. And so I had that, but I have to tell you, at the eighth month, when there was only $10,000 left in the operating account, I really, I mean, I went to the beach one day. I was crying. I mean, I am working my butt off. I'm contacting 10 new people. I'm following up with about 30 people a day. Some want me to call a year later. Some say they don't outsource their training. Some say they already have their speaker for the year, blah, 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 blah. And I went to the beach one day and I started crying. I just saying, man, I really thought this was going to work. And then Tom Hopkins in the back of my head, don't ever stop prospecting, don't ever stop prospecting, don't ever stop prospecting. And my wife and I went to the bank and we got our last check out. I think we left $1,000 in the account, and I paid my staff to continue to put the marketing together. And what was in my soul the whole time, in my heart the whole time, 10 new packages a day in my heart was what my mentor told me when I started 13 years earlier. He said, it's never a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. And the when is determined by how much value you add in between.
Hmm.
And I carried that as a 23-year-old, prospecting. I carried that 12 years later when I started the company, 11 years later when I thought about it, 12 years later when I started it. And today, I talk to people all over the world. And if you have any fear in business, in terms of relationships, that fear is often based on you wanting to get instead of you wanting to give.
Mm.
Leadership, if you want to achieve as a leader, the get only happens with the give. You can't get. It's only one way.
Hmm.
But if you give to get and you keep giving more than you're getting, and yet there's no disconnection in the relationship. I always wanted to give all my employees, I always wanted to give all my business partners more than I was receiving. And it's a very powerful wisdom tradition when you understand that the generous person prospers. There's even a scripture that says one person withholds unduly and comes to poverty, another gives freely and comes to wealth.
Hmm.
So that became one of my mantras, and even today it still is. And
I,
we have a client right now that from the time that Alex and I launched Fuel to the time that they finally said yes was 2 years.
hmm.
And we got to the point where we didn't want to give anymore because we were just giving. It felt unfair. And then I reminded Alex, I said, we just got to keep giving. And until they definitively look us in the eye and say no, then we stop giving. And it took 2 years. And now here they are, one of the biggest companies in America with 40,000 employees. So I always remind people
Amazing.
and Donnie, you know it. I mean, from the heart and soul of relationships. I'm not calling giving social work by any means. I'm calling giving strategic. The giver is the receiver. And it
100%.
takes all the psychology, the negative pressure, it takes all that out of the equation. Does that resonate with you? You've done.
Oh, 100%. It's interesting because as you're talking, I'm like, people are like, well, how does that help me to strategically, leave my teams? Like, I'll tell you, because what you just talked about was what allowed you to go over, under, around, and through the obstacles that are in front of you. And I have on my table. Let's see if I can get these magnified in front of me. Probably can't.
There
Whatever.
we
These
go.
are these are this is legal
Oh,
in all
nice.
states. These are sequoia seeds, redwood tree seeds from a redwood cone. I got it when we were going through the redwood forest, and I just, Todd, I think about the things that are in a seed that wants to grow. It has a design in it. And as a leader, if we can do that, if we can help someone to find the gift that's within and call it out like you have when you're 23,
Yeah.
that's square one. You want someone to go where you don't have to keep telling them what to do. Find their gift. What else? Somehow you were able to maintain belief, and what you said was it was generosity. And so helping people to find a way where their work feels like an act of love, not an act of taking. By the way, a lot
Yeah.
of people in sales and leadership feel like they're trying to push or take or wrestle or fight. But generosity, I think, is if we can help our people to find their version of generosity, it turns it removes the framing of rejection or all of the other parts of failure that are there. Just it reframes it as like, I'm planting seed. I'm just showing up. Like all I have to do is love and give. All I have to do is provide value. All I have to do is invite. All I have to do. And so I think the value of your story, sometimes we want to put things into acronyms or book chapters or like the seven highly what like, but the reality is we can look backward, I think, at what was real success, and it leaves behind some interesting clues that we can pull from. And
Well, I
man,
love the clues. Yeah, I love the clues. In 2004, one of the events I hosted, I hired a guy named Tim Sanders. Tim was Mark Cuban's partner at broadcast.com, the first streaming sports service in the world, right? And Tim had written a book called Love is the Killer App.
oh yeah, yes,
And it went
I've
on
read
to be a
that.
New York Times bestseller, and Tim and I are friends today. At that same event in 2000, I was able to connect with a guy named Joel Manby. Joel Manby was the CEO that steered SeaWorld through the difficulty when they were almost bankrupt because of the orca situation
Hmm.
and whales and treatment and humaneness and all that kind of stuff. And Joel wrote a book because the question he would always get asked is, how did you keep the team going through such such a journey, such an adversarial journey? The media's against you, people are against you, OSHA's against you, everybody's against you, and his answer was love. I told my
Hmm.
team that I love them. I told our team we love our customers. I told our team we love our whales and our dolphins. We love what we do, right? So he wrote a book called Love Works. This is the CEO, and his book Love Works is the seven timeless principles for effective leaders. And I don't want to get loosey goosey, softy, mushy, all of that, but I have to tell you, um, for me, I remember a guy that was on my team. He was an assistant, and I asked him, I said, what are your 5-year goals? Guy's like 23 years old. I'm probably 30 at that time. And he said, well, in 2 years, I want to be able to buy a house. And I go, okay, do you have a plan? And he goes, I'm thinking about it. And I go, how much money do you have, and how much money do you need? And he told me, and I said, I asked him, I said, what would it mean to you in 2 years to own a home? And he said it would be everything. I mean, I talked to my mom and dad, and they're still renting property, and I want to be the first kid that can buy a house, and I was the first kid that went to college, so my pride, I guess. And
Hmm.
so I said, would you be willing to do whatever I teach you if I could guarantee you that in 2 years you'd have a house? And he said yes. And in 2 years he bought a house, and he made enough money by me kind of connecting every action I wanted him to take to the house. And his house became the engine in his body to do what he needed to do, to check that box, and then to have that emotional success, right? And his life got changed forever. And I think that if we look at leadership, it's like Donnie, this is a little bit revealing, but I asked, this is about a year ago, I asked 300 managers in a room. I said, if I came to your office and you didn't know I was arriving, and I asked you if you could produce the 5-year goals that everybody that reports to you has, stand up if you could do that. And out of 300 people, how many people do you think stood up?
0,
Four.
4. Okay.
And then I said, stand up if you have the 4-year goals. Nobody stood up. 3-year goals. Nobody stood up. 2-year, couple people. 1 year, maybe out of 300 people, I think when I got to 1-year goals, we maybe had 15 people. And it's a travesty to me to understand that leadership, if we're talking about performance and the art and science of leadership, what we're talking about is if you don't know what your people want to achieve, you have no leadership influence. And as John Maxwell says, that's all leadership is. It's influence, nothing more, nothing less. So it's not fuzzy, Donnie. It's not like this syrupy kind of love fest. It's the right thing to do. And your shareholders are going to be grateful when you're just ask Chip Larson, who founded Lululemon, right? The entire company was based on 1, 5, and 10-year visions for the employees. And then it got so successful within Lululemon, the technical athletic apparel company, that they started offering it to all of their customers around the world. You want to understand the value that Lululemon can bring to you beyond the clothing? Go through our 1, 5, and 10-year visioning exercise. And they made the PDF down. All of you could go get it right now. Just go to ChatGPT or go to Google and say, I want the Lululemon 1, 5, and 10-year vision document. And there it is. And he writes in his book, that was the turning point.
Mm.
He helped. And when he went to the dressing room, everybody had their dream boards in the dressing room, all the employees, so that the customers could see it. And yeah.
I listen, I think first off, like what you said a moment ago with getting your guy his house, like that is for those who are leading, you want to change your culture, do for one what you wish you could do for the many. Go find one or two or five people whose lives you can change and impact by finding out what they want and helping becoming an active agent to getting them there. Like, and you laid it out like exactly. I call it the coach's conversation. Like you get people bought in instead of forcing it upon them. But I feel like I showed you this earlier. As leaders, I talk to a lot of people that are worn out sometimes
Yeah.
from leadership, and I think it's because we take too much of the responsibility, and we do that because we are not accessing the latent power inside of people. And this I don't even know what they call these. This is a spark maker, right? If you wanted
The
to
fire starter.
fire start, okay. Well, like in technical terms,
Yes,
that's good,
yes, yes.
right? But it's I like our job as leaders, like at least for me, I like to get people close enough to something that I don't have to tell them what to do. So I like to provide spark and then see if there's a fire, and then once there's a fire, then we can direct the energy like that. Now we can make a steam engine from that, but we don't know what that is unless we like. And I think the two primaries you already covered. It's your design,
Yeah.
it's these beautiful gifts, and then it's your desire. I think another one of them is people, and you kind of covered that with generosity. But if I can help my people to understand who they are and what they want, and it sounds basic, but so we don't, no one has time to look that deep. They don't. Most leaders I've talked to, and I bet you could vouch for this, they haven't looked at their 5-year goals for their people. Most of them haven't even looked at it for themselves. So empowering people to know, who are you? What do you want? And then like, how can I get you close enough to that? And then once we get you there, now we give you what you're doing, because there's like bring you action, get you to take action, which most people will take action. And then from that, then I can coach you on some of the mechanics. Now we get into the science of it. What do you think about that?
I'm centering in on an experience I had. And you asked earlier, what are some of the things that led to you getting to where you are today? And I'm going to share this with everybody. You may, if you read High Trust Selling, it may come back to the frontal cortex, and you may remember reading it at one point in time. But the day I made a decision to pursue speaking, I was in a seminar with 2,000 people. I happened to be sitting in the front row with my friend who was a title partner, title rep. And the guy starts the session off like this. He goes, let me ask you guys all a question. And then he just pauses, right? And he goes, what's more important to you, your life or this building? And he goes, how many of you would say your life is more important than this building? And obviously, 100% of the people raise their hands. And his second question was, how long do you think it took to design this building? This is a 25-story hotel,
Hmm.
and he said, do you think it took, I don't know, 24 months? You think it took 18 months? You think it took 12 months? I mean, put your hand up if you think it's somewhere between 12 and 18 months. And almost every hand went up. And I remember this just clearly today, just like it happened. And he goes, okay, so your life is more important than the building. The building took 12 months to design before it was even built. Have you spent 12 months designing your life? And
Wow.
not one hand went up in the room. And he goes, yeah, I figured that because 12 months is a year, and most people don't have a year to go on sabbatical to figure out what they want the rest of their life to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, how about 12 weeks? How many of you have spent 12 weeks just not connecting with the world, not working, just thinking and designing your life? And no hands went up. And then he dropped down and he goes, how about 12 days? And you had a couple hands that went up, but they were just, it's kind of like this instead of like way up here. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he said, okay, so how about 12 hours? Your life's more important than the building. The building took 12 months to design. Your life is more important. How about just 12 hours? A half a day sabbatical to think through your life. And you got maybe 15, 20 hands. And that was for me like the turning point where when he said, if you just spent 12 hours asking the important questions about what are your gifts, what brings you the most joy, what moves you to tears in relationships and people, what are two or three of the goals that you know you want to achieve that if you were to align a design around those goals, and when I wrote my first book, Donnie, called The Power to Be Your Best, I talked about my annual visit to the rock. I lived in La Jolla, California, lived on the beach, and I had a rock that I would go to every single year. And I would sit on that rock for a half a day. I had a cooler, I had
Mm.
food, I had drinks, I had my chair, I had an umbrella, I had my journal, I had a handheld tape recorder, and I had all the journal entries I had made over the last 12 months about things that I wanted to pay attention to the next year. And I'll never forget that metaphor. Why is it that something that takes so long to design, that is so incomprehensibly unvalued compared to life,
Hmm.
why would we not spend that time? And so I created this thought process around life planning, and it was about like, what are your values, and are you living in alignment with your values?
Mm-hmm.
What are the accounts in your life that are important? Is it God? Is it health? Is it money? Is it relationships? Is it whatever, whatever? And then where do you see yourself being in a year or two in each of these areas? And what are the things that maybe every quarter you could revisit to put some teeth to the action plan? And then how would that manifest in like daily behaviors? Like what do you really, really want to accomplish? And what is the behavior today that will move you towards that? And I had this almost dogmatic approach to, if you don't have a plan, you're following somebody else's. Jim Rohn says that all the time, right? Said it all the time when he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really crystallized on the architecture of building a life plan. And I taught that for 15 years. I still teach it, but I had three things happen in a period of 12 months. I lost about 90% of my net worth buying a company I shouldn't bought. I lost my wife to a battle of breast cancer, and I lost my company to a guy that I had sold it to that fired me from my own company, all in 12 months.
Mm.
And I remember the first time I looked at an audience and I said, here's my new thought about life planning. Write your life plan in pencil and prepare to pivot. It didn't mean life planning was not good. It didn't mean having goals wasn't good. It didn't mean understanding living according to my moral code of conduct and my values. It didn't mean any of that was good. It just means stuff happens and it's not about the life plan being right or wrong. I
Hmm.
had my first wife and I, living on an island and having fun in Hawaii and blah, 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 blah. And, she died 50 years before that dream ever came true. And so, for me, you're better off having a plan and having to modify it than having no plan and having to conform.
I I like that. I like the idea of just being fluid. I always think too that we all take action towards whatever it is we're doing with limited knowledge.
Mm.
And some of us are predisposed towards thinking towards a plan. Others of us are predisposed towards action with no plan. In neither by itself is complete. I think that's one of the one of my go-tos says that faith and works like they combine to make something really good. So like this internal belief, this drive, and actually doing something about it um, creates impact. And the truth is that we see through a glass dimly. I remember when we climbed our first mountain in Maine, it was Tumble Down Mountain. And we saw this big mountain, we climbed it, and I'm like, when we got to the top, I was like, that wasn't that hard. That was a little bit disappointing. It says it's supposed to take 5 hours. Why'd this only take me two? And then when we get to the top, Todd, we had experienced what was called a false summit. Then we saw the real summit. Like so the clouds were covering the real one
Right.
that we were supposed to. And so we had a different vantage point. And sometimes we make movement in a direction and it gives us like we should always be readjusting and reassessing. And I think that our people are too. If we're leading people, I think the compass in my mind, if we could have a compass, it would be something that even if you're off course, it could redirect you to where you're at least directionally moving in the right direction. And I think that help your people to find their identity, like their real one, not their pretend one, because we all have pretend identities. Those are called personas, but the real who they really are. Help them to find their desire, their dream, and start to take action. I think that's that third point, and the fourth one is the gifts. And I think if you can somehow help your people to do that, you're at least sparking them towards something that it could multiply greatly. But even if it did nothing, they're still in a better place than they were before they found those things. And I think putting people in a place where you create potential for multiplicity, potential for all of their dreams to come true. Um, Sometimes that's the best that we can hope for, and whatever happens between them and the universe, like we don't control it all. We
Yeah.
set them up for success. How do you keep there's one of the things that we talked about is like getting people, Todd, from um, procrastination, right? That creative avoidance, and maybe they're planning to plan or they're thinking about their plan or maybe they think they have to plan or they have to find themselves. How do you what's the you've seen thousands and thousands of people and help them, you've seen the good and the bad and the ugly. How do we get people from uh procrastination to progress?
The simple answer is purpose. I mean, it's very hard to procrastinate if you're clear on purpose. And the second is skill. It's very hard to procrastinate when you have confidence in the skill. But procrastination exists because of a false belief of what might happen. And instead, it should be a motivating thought about what could happen if I took action or if I don't. Les Brown used to say, the key to success is to leap and grow your wings on the way down.
Hmm.
And that was that was just very interesting as a concept. And I think what ends up happening, and I want to digress for just a moment because you had me on something that I really wanted to say to people. Um, the beauty of the false summit experience, the beauty of that is you did what you thought was all you had to do, and then you got to a point where you realized there was more to go. And that is life. Life is an experience. But the only way to not, I was listening to this, I was listening to, oh my gosh, I'll just tell everybody this. If you haven't listened to this yet, I spent 2 hours last night listening to the Unlimited Power podcast, episode 1000, which was with Matthew McConaughey, and it was called The Art of Living a Courageous Life. And one of the things that came out of that is the beauty of life is every step creates a reality called more will be revealed.
Mm.
And you have no idea what step might be revealed if you don't take the step that gets you to the point where it will be revealed. And the beauty of understanding that life is one constant. John Murphy just said this, one of your fellow instructors and a good friend of Fuels. John said that it's taken me 65 years to continually plan and build my life. Evidently, I'm a work in progress. We are all a work in progress. Bottom line is we're all here, and the next step, just like when you're, in a car and you can see 5 miles down the road, but you can't really see it until you get like a mile away from what you were seeing 5 miles ago. And I believe that there's a divine design in play for everybody. And I also believe that the universe leaves clues. And I also believe that if you're stagnant, you're not going to see what's next. And it doesn't mean that you have this unsettled heart. I just got to keep moving.
Hmm.
The procrastination issue. Let's go back to Abe Lincoln. Famous quote. Procrastination is the fertilizer that makes everything worse.
Oh. Yes, right?
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
your procrastination today is minimal compared to what it will be in a month if you procrastinate for the next 29 days. You will look in the mirror and you will feel less than, which is one of the reasons why people have these self-imposed boundaries. Procrastination is a self-imposed boundary. I don't know how to do it. I don't have enough time. I'm too old. Blah 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 blah. I'm not good enough. Blah 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 blah. And so we stay in this like comfort zone. And isn't it ironic, Donnie, that the comfort zone of inaction becomes the zone of discomfort in action?
Mm.
Isn't that fascinating? That the
Wait,
dis
wait, wait, wait. So when someone is in inaction, their comfort zone is
high,
procrastination. But then
right?
when they are high performers, like then that's actually very uncomfortable. Like inaction or procrastination rather is uncomfortable. Is that what we're?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I'll give you an example. If in the business of selling, there is a procrastination on making calls, and every salesperson on the planet knows that part of what you have to do in selling is make calls and connect with people and have all that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And if a salesperson doesn't want to make calls and they procrastinate making calls, not making the call creates short-term comfort.
Yes.
The minute the manager comes up and says, this week you have to make 10 calls, and if you don't make 10 calls by the end of the week, you're terminated. Here's 3 things I think that will help you make those 10 calls this week. I recommend you try 3 today. And so the salesperson now knows that in 1 week, he or she will be terminated if they don't make 10 calls. And so they have to. And they make the first call, whatever the result is. They make the second call, whatever the result is. They make the third call, whatever the result is. At the end of that day and making 3 calls, they would say something like this: well, that wasn't so bad. And let's say 2 rejected and 1 accepted. That wasn't so bad. So
Hmm.
I know right now that if I make 3 calls and 1 is okay and excited and 2 are not, that by the end of this week, I will make 3 new connections with people. And I'm going to look back on Friday going, compared to Monday, The comfort of not making calls and the discomfort of making the calls has led me to a new level of belief that making calls is not that bad. And that's all this is. That's all this journey is. It's just about one constant journey of understanding we were meant as human organisms to grow. We were meant to live. We have
On the
this
move.
we have this gift of life, right? And when you look at the word life as leaders, and right in between the L and the E is this word if. So what if people could move past procrastination? What if
Good.
people could be happier because they're skilled up, upskilled, and more confident in their job? What if you could double the productivity of your team by having a learning platform? What if? And the what ifs are just so beautiful because they unleash the other side of procrastination.
Mm.
What if instead of that not working, it worked? I mean, just think about that. Think about that same sales example. Think about that person having procrastination, having call reluctance, having fear. What if one day they had Donnie Tuttle for a half an hour pour into them on belief and power, okay, and taking action, and all of a sudden they go, that wasn't so bad. Now they're at a whole new level. And here's what's interesting. I think it was either Emerson or Thoreau or gosh, it's probably the name I'm forgetting right now, but it was very powerful. And I think the quote went like this: man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, will
Mm.
never go back to its original form.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that in our life, it's like on the sales call example, that wasn't so bad. Well, what's the next action?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have as much fear in making calls. So now my belief level goes up. And the rising tide of leadership is everybody on your team. 100% of the people on your team have to believe that they're going up.
Yeah.
And that's the culture of performance. That's the art and science of
Belief.
performance. They have to believe that they are better with you than without you.
Belief with action cures. You want to talk about curing procrastination and creating performance? I think this is probably the secret to all business being busy is belief with action. I had a leader yesterday. You've probably done this before too. It's like, and he was like, "Oh," I'm like, "How?" He was feeling flat. I'm like, "Cool, get out, put on your shoes. You're walking. We're walking." He starts to walk. I'm like, "Tell me about your vision again." And he starts saying, I'm like, "All right, tell me about it. And I want you to move your walking speed up to a level 10 out of 10. And he's like, like, don't worry, I'll start telling you your vision back to you. And so but it's like that intense movement with a thought sparked, and I let him slow down. And it was a little bit of elasticity that the guy needed to get back into his mind and to get back into action. Action is the great teacher of all things.
100%. 100%. And the only certainty of inaction is no progress or regression.
There is
It's the only certainty of inaction.
There's-
Forget the psychological impact, but that's the certainty of inaction. There's a very powerful, I think I'm going to risk something right now.
got a little quote here that goes along with this. John D. Rockefeller and his some people say he's the devil. I don't know. Like these letters to his son are very interesting. He says, anything can happen in this world, but nothing happens without doing anything.
Nothing happens without doing anything. I was thinking the word would be nothing happens without doing something.
Yeah,
But
I would think that too. Yeah.
yeah, it works perfectly. You know, there's a great video out. I'm going to risk something real quick here. I don't know if this will translate on YouTube, but I'm going to show this to you. This is a 2-minute video that I shared with my son last night. My son's had a lot of challenges, including a near-death experience, and really trying to get centered on his life purpose and whatnot. And I'm going to share this video, and let me just get the sound. Go share sound. So Donnie, give me a thumbs up if this works.
I've been protected.
Turn it up a little bit.
You guys
I've
turn
been
it up.
corrected.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
I've kept God in my life and has kept me humble. I didn't always stick with him, but he always stuck with me. So stick with him. in everything you do. If you think you want to do what you think I've done, then do what I've done and stick with God. Number 2, fail big. That's right. Fail big. Today's the beginning of the rest of your life, and it can be very frightening. It's a new world out there. It's a mean world out there, and you only live once. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances, but don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. So have dreams, but have goals. And understand that to achieve these goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. In order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, which you have already done, and consistency every day, not just on Tuesday and miss a few days. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You've heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people do. Remember that. Just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Don't confuse movement with progress. My mother told me, she said, yeah, because you can run in place all the time and never get anywhere. So continue to strive, continue to have goals, continue to progress.
Isn't that powerful?
Ah, so good.
Yeah,
Denzel.
yeah. I think he dumbs it down to discipline and consistency. And discipline is a beautiful word if you frame it the right way. All success, all inner belief, all ultimately self-worth and self-esteem is pegged to the word discipline. Most people have the chance to reframe the way they think about discipline. And discipline, Jim Rohn says, is a few success practices put into play every day, while failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Discipline is the gift of wealth, and fear is the demon of poverty. And, it's discipline. I wrote down this morning, I have I'm in this course right now called Miraculous, and let me just tell you what it's called. It's called Miraculous Relationships, and it's a meditation I'm involved in right now. And this morning, the meditation this morning had to do with esteem. And when I looked at this miraculous esteem, I took down a note, and the note was, I am completely worthy and whole in myself, and that the constructs of the world are not there to define me. I'm a miracle. I was born a miracle. I've maybe made a mess of the miracle at times. I haven't maybe unleashed the miracle in me, but everything on the outside world that comes at you in any form of degradation or judgment or less than or any of that defies the miracle you are. And so the whole meditation was around just this kind of cocoon of not letting the world's ideology impact the beauty and the miracle of who you are. When you have that, then you have a whole different perspective. The lens of life is a whole different lens. So I say that for two reasons. One, everybody on your team as a leader needs to feel that empowerment. You talked about empowerment early on, Donnie, and the opposite of empowerment is disempowerment. Dis is a negative prefix, DIS. It means to negate or take away. A disempowered person feels less than. An empowered person feels more than, right? Trust is why empowerment is so rich as a leadership concept, because you're saying to a human being, you're saying, I trust you to do this. You come to me and you say, how should I handle this? My leadership response to that is, I don't know. How do you think you should handle it?
Mm.
Tell me how you should handle it. You're empowered to make this decision. And let's say I get some feedback. I can say, that is awesome. I would just add this piece to it and now go forth and do and multiply. At some point, people need to understand that leadership is giving people the permission and the talent and to be the wind blower under the wing instead of the weight on top of the wing. Back to flying planes, weight and balance, drag and thrust, lift. It's all about that. And our job is to lift people up by empowering them to make decisions that give them this beautiful moment of enriched self-identification.
So it's interesting. There's where my mind goes with that, Todd, and actually, people perform better when they have mission.
Yes.
And mission is something oftentimes that is, it's bigger than self,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Usually it's for someone. There's a message somehow in that. You're delivering people from one place to another. But companies are built on missions, and we say, "What's your mission statement?" And it's all great. Most people don't really know what their company mission is, but then but we've been talking about this whole time is really what is this? What is like? Can we help people find their mission?
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you mean their mission? Well, Todd, what are you here to do on this planet? I was working with someone today, and he is ascending to take over the reins of a large company, and he's kind of like realized that all of everything kind of goes into this tiny I call it the meta code, like this tiny thing that informs everything, and he wants to become the authentic, the most his I am the authentic and trusted leader. And it's like when you find that as your mission, it's like, cool. What does the authentic and trusted leader do? Like maybe he runs meetings this way. Maybe he meets with those people. Maybe he has written a book. Maybe he attends webinars and seminars. And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden that one thing becomes like all informing. Now that's his mission.
Yeah.
But what's the company's mission? And now if we can find the overlap of the two missions, we have a co-mission. And I think that like if we can find the place of overlap, it's the accelerator of the company and of the individual. And that's where we don't have to provide the playbook for it because it's innate. It's built inside of someone. It's just like love, to go back to your earlier point.
And I think once you have it, like I'll give you an example. There's a guy that I work with. His name is Hovik. He's a beautiful human soul. And in 2013, we were asking the same question, Donnie, that you just posed, and he was stuck. I mean, he was stuck on really understanding. So why am I here? And so we started this 5-day program on a Monday, very intense, 400-page workbook. Wednesday afternoon, he says, "Can I meet with you tomorrow morning? I think I've figured out my purpose." And I said, "Yeah." And so we met at 7:30. The session starts at 8. And he took the pad of paper and he wrote his mission that he had been working on for 4 days. And here's what it said. He said, "I am the pride and inspiration for my family, my team, and my industry. I am the source of pride and inspiration for my family, my team, and my industry." I talked to him 4 days ago. He still lives that out every single day in 2025. And it's inspired him to be a great leader. It's inspired him to be a great dad. It's inspired him to make decisions with his 3 boys about, teaching them investing and having them go to college and doing all these things. And he's an inspirational leader. And I would say this as we wrap this up at the top of the hour. If your leadership is not transforming the soul of each individual on your team, the discussion that Donnie and I have just had should unleash that. You should sit down and have a coffee with every person on your team.
Yes.
And you should ask them, "Hey, I just was on this 1-hour webinar and it dawns on me that I really need to just have a deeper connection with you. And part of how I want to do that is, you're in this position, you're at this company, and where would you like to be in 5 years? I dare everybody on this call, everybody listen to this, everybody on the YouTube live stream, I dare you to ask your 10 closest people that you lead, that report to you. I dare you to ask that question in the next 24 hours. That's my go do it in 24 hours and see what they say. And I bet you 95% of you will be enriched, number one, and number two, interestingly surprised by what you learn.
I think you're going to be compelled, and I would add one tiny thing to that.
Yeah.
Ask them, how can I help you get there?
Yeah.
And now you've just now built a coaching scenario, Todd, and now we're improving people because they've invited you into something that matters to them. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thanks for letting me be a part of this cool
Oh, are you kidding me? I had a
collaborative conversation.
Next time I'm going to interview you on everything. And I love what we're doing here at Fuel. I love the fact that we're connecting with people all over the world to help them become the better version of themselves. And if you guys are not optimizing daily meetings with your team, watching a 1 or 2 minute video with your team, just start doing that. Sit down and enrich your team around the principles of self-performance and improvement and all the things that we know are important to people. If people can have a richer on-the-job experience, they'll have a happier off-the-job experience. And that's one of the goals of leaders. People that are happy off the job are healthier and more profitable on the job. So good to have you guys with us. Donnie, thank you for just beyond grateful for your heart.
Much appreciated.
And no, you are one of those guys that is an inspirational to the core guy that can help unlock, I think, the behaviors of people to see and have them experience there is a better way. And all of us, you and me, we're both working on what's next and what's a better way to do this, or what do we do here next. And it's, life is one constant painting in process. And John Wooden calls it your masterpiece.
Mm.
And if we took our eyes just off of the moment and we kept it on the horizon, we would have more inspiration in the moment. It's the vision that pulls us forward. And it's not about happiness and contentment. Those are side benefits to doing what you were wired to do and to doing it more often and having more fun doing it. So
there's joy in that work. Thank you, Todd.
Amen. All right, you guys, take care and share this with the team again. The middle of the month on the 15th, we're going to our new 28-minute format. So Mindful Mondays will be 28 minutes. Leadership Live will be 28 minutes. We're also launching with one of our instructors, Fearless Fridays. How does that sound? Fearless Friday. So John Murphy's going to be hosting that live show every Friday. We're going to send you into the weekend with some thoughts about getting rid of fear and balancing fear and seeing the power of fear and the benefit of fear and just the understanding of it. It's all about the attitude of how we approach the things that we get to approach. And John Maxwell used to say, if you don't have any fear, you're not growing. And I'm excited about this show too. So Donnie, thanks so much. You're a blessing. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Same time, same channel.
Bye, guys.